Lily, please.
Shalom. I'm happy to see you all with us for our first panel for 2026. My name is Professor Lily Zamir. I'm the academic director and the co-founder of WISC and also an active academic in Israel. This panel, which is our first one, is in collaboration with Remember the Women Institute, headed by Dr. Rochelle Seidel and Professor Sonia M. Hedges. We are going to have a slight change in our program, which is that after my introductory, Dr. Rochelle and Professor Sonia will deliver their lecture, and Martha is going to conclude. I wish us all a very interesting and challenging evening. I chose to talk about the female body because I think that this is a good opening to our program. And I was wondering about the female body, gendered violence from scripture to the Holocaust and October the 7th. This is a kind of introductory, not really a lecture, but still I think it's a quite important overview of the valuation of against women's body throughout history, especially during wartime and genocide. From early biblical narrative to modern war and conflicts, sexual violence against women is portrayed as a deliberate act of dominion, a clear symbol of conquest, and an erasure of identity. The military historian Professor Martin van Creveld, known for his misogyny, once said, "Better to be raped than to die in the battlefield." Well, I believe that all of us here at least can agree that this statement is both dangerous and wrong. The female body has long been viewed both as a symbol of reproduction and a source of disaster, not just during wartime. Throughout history, from early monotheistic religions and to crusades, and then to the 20th century's two world wars, totalitarian regimes, and ongoing conflicts until nowadays, women's body have always been used as a kind of battleground. Let's start with the Bible. The biblical canon, the core text of Jewish and Christian tradition. The law about the beautiful captive woman. In Hebrew it is Yefat Toar, which is already in the Deuteronomy 21, lines 10 till 14. And then to the Babylonian Talmud, Kiddushim 21, and other halachic texts. A woman captured in war is permitted to the conqueror, not as an individual, but as a part of the spoils. However, unlike other lots, she cannot be sold afterwards. She is tamed, but not tradable. In Hebrew language itself, we have the horrible idea of violence to women when we say that we conquer a woman, which means she accepted our proposal to be her husband or fiancé. Lichbosh isha, you conquer a woman. Both types of conquest produce results. Literally, if you conquer the land, then you have crops. If you conquer a woman, she breeds offspring. Both are viewed as the conqueror's property to do whatever he wishes. Throughout history, women's body was always raped, mutilated, slaughtered, and the conquerors decided. Names, location, dates change, but never the concept of the female body as an enemy that remained always the same. In the 90s of the last century, international law views the rape of women as a marker for genocide and war crime. Yet, these acts still occur. They occurred in Rwanda, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then, of course, October 7th in Gaza. In each case, women were raped, murdered, despite the law, as a part of a ritual of violence rooted in an hatred, something very deep. If you conquered the woman, you conquered the nation. You humiliated the whole nation. Because conquering a woman, it means that the men who survived the war failed. They failed to protect their land. They failed to protect their women. They failed to protect their religion. The failure is horrible, and the price is paid by women's body. In patriarchal societies, the shame runs so deep that surviving women often were killed by their own families just to hide the shame that they were raped. Therefore, women were here betrayed twice. First, by the men of their own family, country, tribe, who failed to protect her. Then, against by men who executed her because of being assaulted. That's why very few women dared to speak out after being raped. Their survival became a threat to the patriarchal honor. If you are raped, my honor is in trouble. I'm ashamed. I, as the man of the tribe, the land, and the family. In Israel, we can assume that modernity shields rape survivors from rejection or stigma. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. People often say and ask women that have survived, how come that you survived? How come that you were only raped and not killed? And I stress only. Holocaust survivors had to face the same questions very often, and usually they respond with silence or suicide, which was already advised by rabbis in the Talmud. Rabbi Yehuda said that Rabbi Shmuel told him a story about 400 young women that thought that they are in danger to be raped. They all climbed to a high roof and jumped into the sea to drown. Rabbi Tam said, if there is a danger of disgrace, it is a mitzvah to damage oneself. Hence, to commit suicide. It's in the Talmud, Tosafot Avodah Zarah, for those who need the source. One of the most well-known legends related to women in the Holocaust to support this theme, which means to better to commit suicide than become raped, is the story of the 93 Beit Yaakov students aged 14 to 22 in Krakow ghetto, who gathered in a room and took their own lives because they were in danger that the Nazis will rape them. The legend was spread through rumors and misinformation, in spite of the very embarrassing historical fact that it never occurred. Yet it troubled the Orthodox community, which had a strong reason to defend, since the female womb is a national source, a national treasure, and has a national importance. So it must be protected at all costs, even if the lives are in risk. Rabbi Moshe Bloy said, these martyrs, referring to those 93 girls who the story never happened, but still he refers to it. He says those martyrs gave us in their death much more than they could give in their lives. Yad Vashem, of course, had announced that the event never took place, And survivors from the great ghetto of Krakow was not a very big ghetto, so people usually knew each other. None of them heard about the story, but still, the story had a message. The message conveyed a myth, and the myth conveyed another message. A research done by Dr. Nomi Levenkron showed that the story is based on another story, a fiction, but by Yud Lamed Peretz, which is called The Three Gifts. The third gift refers to the suicide story of the Beit Yaakov girls. Yet, the story existed, and even though that it was written in Hungarian Yiddish, which was not the spoken Yiddish in the ghetto of Krakow. After the liberation, women had to face lots of unpleasant questions and judgment regarding the fact how did they survive. One of the women that I interviewed for another study of mine in about 23 years ago told me, she was from Hungary, she was an Hungarian Jew, and she told me that after liberation, an Hungarian rabbi visited us. We were about 38 young women, survivors, and we had nothing. We were very thin, very sick, and extremely sad. We didn't know what's going to be with us tomorrow, who is going to take care of us. And suddenly the rabbi came. We felt so happy. We felt that maybe he's going to have a good message, some news, something to support us, to strengthen us. But no, the only thing that he wanted to know if we are clean and pure. And he explained us that our cleanness and purity is the most important thing for the future of the Jewish nation. Our personal future did not interest him at all. We know so many stories about women, Jews and non-Jews, during the war in Poland and other occupied territories that had to buy bread, freedom, and sometimes a roof or hiding place or survival for their children, and they had to pay with their bodies. So many Holocaust stories we know, and still so little testimonies about women in first person singular saying, this is what happened to me. And it's very interesting because even after years and years, women felt embarrassed telling what happened to them. A major challenge if we want to study sexual violence during the Holocaust and it's the same, the Hamas attacks, that people want always to have the golden proof from the victim. Well, most of the surviving victims can't give us the golden proof. It's a story told by the victim, and we have to believe her without any historical questions or judgment. Dr. Halbertal made a study about victims of genocide and rape, female victims. And she said that there is a huge difference between an organized rape during the war or individual rape on the street, a dark street, somebody finds you and rape you. She said that usually rape that are organized as a national act have the same pattern. Women are mutilated. Pregnant women's belly are cut open. Breasts are cut off while the victim is still alive. Bodies are discarded. These are horrors that happen in genocide, not in private rapes. Carol Rittner, in her groundbreaking study in 1993, revealed that many survivors felt that they were somehow betrayed twice. Once because they couldn't save their own family, the ones that they really liked. And then, after the war, that those who survived tried to judge them. I think that very few women have the guts to testify after what happened and say, this is what happened to me, because they were afraid from people who will listen and judge. And still, we have to bear in mind one huge difference, which will, I think, open the next sessions. The Holocaust, unlike all other genocides, is very different because most of genocides are connected to a geopolitical conflict. It's a war and it's a result of war. Hatred between nations, that land is involved. Jews and Roma during the Holocaust had no geopolitical conflict, not with the Germans, not with other European communities, and still they were slaughtered and raped. And I think that this is the moment to conclude with Primo Levi's words. No one will survive. No one will remain to tell. And if one person survives and tells, no one will believe her or him. I think that our role, and this is one of the main goals of WIS, is to believe and to give voice to those women. Thank you, and now we can start our program. Our first speakers are two. We have two speakers at the same time, and it is Professor Sonia M. Hadjeks and, of course, Dr. Rochelle G. Seidel, the founders of Remember the Women Institute, which is a non-profit institute. Dr. Rochelle is well known for most of us. She's the founding executive director of Remember the Women Institute. She's a very well-known, very well-established scholar of Holocaust, especially women in the Holocaust, Jewish women. She wrote books, co-edited a book with Professor Sonia Hadjeks about the topic. She was in the past fellow researcher in Yad Vashem, and she, of course, was the one who had the, how should I say, not only coordinator, but much more. She was the one who thought that it's important to have the exhibition violated about women in the Holocaust. The exhibition was very important. It was really a landmark for all Holocaust studies and connecting them to art. So this is our first speaker, and with her will speak Professor Sonia, who is not only her friend, but they work together and they devote many of their writings to women in the Holocaust. So I think that this is the high time to start their lecture. It will be very interesting because they are going to do it both together, and they are going to talk about sexual violence about Jewish women during the Holocaust. Do we believe them now? Of course, if we have questions to the speakers, it will be after the third lecture delivered. And here I want to say special thank you to Daniel, Rochelle's son, who is going to give us the technical help. So let's start. The floor is